Hello, my name is Doug Hubble and welcome to Astrophotography Tutorials. Today I'm going to talk about a do-it-yourself digital picture frame. If you're like me and you've done this for a little while, you'll notice that your walls will get full of these kinds of photos. So what I want to do is I want to use a Raspberry Pi and an old monitor and try to make a digital picture frame so I can display my astrophotography images. Of course, if you have other photos, this will be great for your family photos as well. So stick around and I'll go through the steps and we'll learn how to do this together. So here's a quick look of what I'm going to try to use. I've got an old monitor. I think it's a 19-inch LCD monitor. I have the Raspberry Pi right here. I have a power supply for the Raspberry Pi. This is just an old phone charger with a USB cable. Also have getting it set up, I'm going to use this powered USB hub to help me power the keyboard and mouse to get it configured. To go to the video output, I've got a DVI to HDMI, and there's the HDMI cable. It's a small one, it's only a foot long. So that's kind of a quick overview of all the equipment that going to be using. So to get started, you'll have to go to www.raspberrypi.org/downloads, and here you'll see new out-of-box software. Noobs, what a creative name. Anyway, you go here and you download the zip file. Click on that. Another software I recommend you download is from sdcard.org, and it's a utility called SD Formatter 4.0. This will allow you to format your SD card for the Raspberry Pi. Do this first before you get started. After you've downloaded your Noobs software, you'll extract the zip file and it'll create another folder called Noobs. You go into your Noobs folder and you'll see all the files there. Select all of them, Control A, then copy them, Control C, and then find your SD card and then paste them right inside that SD card, Control V. And it's going to take a while. It's a 1.1 gigabyte operating system, so it's going to take a while to get them there. Once these images or all these files are copied to the SD card, then you can take that SD card and plug it right into the Raspberry Pi and it will start booting. If you've never seen the Raspberry Pi, it's a very small unit, and this whole piece that you see in my hand is basically one computer. You can see on one end there you have a Ethernet port and two USB ports. You move it around to the other side and you'll see a HDMI port, and right over here on the back side we have an SD card slot. A look at the Raspberry Pi with everything connected. Here's the HDMI cable. The HDMI cable goes to a DVI adapter here that will plug into the monitor over here. This right here is the power cable. It's just a USB. Most phone chargers are capable of plugging into this. It has to be about, I think the minimum requirements is 700 milliamps. This one that I have right now is 1 amp. And then the keyboard and the mouse are plugging in right there. What I'm going to do later on is I'm going to remove this and put in a wireless adapter, because I want to be able to put the picture frame anywhere I'd like, and I don't want to have another wire of an Ethernet cable going to it. But it's a very compact unit. Error. Must be at least 4 gigabytes, so I made a mistake trying to put it on 2 gig. Well, let me come back and we'll try it again. I put a 8 gig stick in here instead of a 2 gig. The minimum requirement is going to be 4 gigabytes when you get ready to install Raspberry Pi. So here we go with the first step. It's asking about Raspbian, so I'm just going to go ahead and press enter. Okay, be overwritten? Sure, yes. And it says we're currently setting up your SD card, so this is probably going to take a while. But that's the first step in getting this going. It's done. It'll say image applied successfully, and we'll just press enter. OK. It'll start to reboot after you do that. After it reboots, it'll come to the Raspberry Pi configuration tool. What I would suggest too is enable boot to desktop. That's what you need to do anyway. For that, you can also get the command line option in there, so go ahead and select that, enable boot to desktop, and it'll say should we boot straight to desktop? Just say yes, and that's been set now. You can go back into here if you want to at a later time and do some other things like overclocking and more information about that, but I'm just going to say finish, and we're going to reboot. Yes. After the Raspberry Pi gets booted up, and you'll get to a desktop like this, and you know that everything has been successfully installed. You've got a booting operating system at this point. The next step, what we'll do is we'll put in a wireless network card. My wireless network card, it's a small little USB wireless network card. I need to plug it into here to one of the USB ports, so I'm going to end up losing my mouse or my keyboard. So during this configuration step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a USB hub, and that way I can plug in all my devices at once. Now I have my wireless card plugged in underneath the USB adapter right here. I've got this USB hub so I can plug in my keyboard and mouse, and this is only going to be used temporarily until I get it all configured. Then I'll take all this apart. On the left side of the desktop, you'll see a Wi-Fi config icon, so I'm going to go ahead and open that up. Started here, you open up the Wi-Fi config, you go under Manage Network tab, make sure you enable it, and then you click the scan button here, and what it will do is it'll come up and show you scanned results of your wireless network. This particular one is my wireless network, so I just hit all I do is I'll just double click on it, and when I double click on it, it opens up the information automatically, and all I have to do now is put in my passkey in order to connect to the network. And then at the bottom of this it says add. I'll hit add and close this down, and now it's been added to the network and it should be connected. On here it does show that it's been connected. Stay tuned for part 2, where I'll describe how to go through the Raspberry Pi step by step and show you how to configure the Raspberry Pi for a digital picture frame. The Raspberry Pi is in Linux, and most people aren't too familiar with that operating system, but I'll show you each step so you can successfully edit and create your own digital picture frame. If you can't wait for part 2 and you want to go to a website and read this tutorial, you can. I'll put a link in the comments section below. But just be warned, those steps are a little bit different from what I'm outlining, and I think my steps are a little bit easier. If you're new to my channel and you're watching for the first time, I'd like you to subscribe. I publish 2 astrophotography videos on the 1st and 15th of every month. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.